Hello, my name is Min Kobayashi, and today I'm going to be doing Pick My TBR. This is my first version of this, so I'm pretty excited. Also, I know that they'll probably be banging around. My neighbors are doing construction, but I figured that would be better than the fading length, so I'm just gonna go with it. One of my goals of 2019 was to reduce the amount of physical TBR that I have. And the way I'm going to do that is by kind of going into my competitive nature and asking you guys to pick books for me to read, and then I'll probably feel more spurred on to read them. So first I'm going to do books that I have not really picked up before and which ones of those I should read versus the ones later on that I've started but never finished. The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is a novel about a kingdom where the prince has died and one of the political men in the system decides to hold a secret competition for boys around the same age and looks to see which one would be best for him to pretend to be an imposter. This is something that's actually happened a lot in history, maybe not the competition, but political figures supporting people when the alleged heir is actually dead. I'm really excited. I have this and the sequel, and I've heard really good things about it, so I'm really excited to dive into it, if you guys pick it. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I read the prologue during the summer, and it didn't super catch my attention, but I am still really excited to read it, and it is about these monsters and humans. It has a lot of moral questions, I believe. Then going into my classics, which happens to be most of my shelves, and Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is very well known and loved. I read most of Jane Austen's books last year, but I still have this and Mansfield Park, which I actually don't own, to read, and I know the story. It is about these two sisters. One is very logical and one is very free-spirited, and they've lost their money and they're relying on relatives and they meet men and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. The Book of Lost Things. This is a novel about David, who is 12 years old and just lost his mother, and he finds out that he can interact with books, and I'm super excited about this. It's one book that I've heard really good things about. Again, I've had it on my shelves for almost 2 years, but just haven't picked it up. And then last, and certainly not least, is Jane Eyre. This is a novel I also wanted to read forever. It is telling the story of Jane Eyre, who is an orphan, and then becomes a governess as well, and her journey, and it is one of the formative kind of feministic books of the 18th century, and a lot of people have really strong opinions about it. I haven't read it, and I've really wanted to read it for a really long time. These are books that I have begun, and I just haven't finished, so vote which one I should finish in the month of May. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is a novel I started in high school. This is actually the annotated version. I had a really old crappy version, but then I got this one and replaced it. And it was because it was a really small, falling apart, small print book that I didn't finish it, but I was really intrigued about Pip and just his life, and I love the writing, and I want to finish it. I have this one. This is my worst sin ever. So on my first ever TBR, when I was in BookTube in June of 2017, I talked about how this was on my TBR because I was reading it currently, which is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Claude Houssini. This is true. I've been reading this book for a really long time, as in I read the first 2 chapters a long time ago, and I haven't read them since. I have been loving the book since the first half a page I wrote. It is incredible. Claude Houssini writes beautifully. The Kite Runner is one of my favorite novels. It is a novel about an Afghan girl who was born outside of her marriage and struggles and different things in her life. I'm not sure exactly where the plot goes, but I'm super wanting to read it. I don't know why I never pick it up. I Am Messenger by Marcus Zusak. I originally picked this up because I knew he was the author of The Book Thief, which was a novel that I'd wanted to read forever, and I've actually read that book, so good on me. This one I started, I don't even know again, probably over a year ago. And I started the audiobook. It's only 9 hours long. I've still not made it to 2 hours. And I've gotten into the library 4 different times. The audiobook. I own the physical version. It's just, I don't like the main dude. I'm determined not to DNF it. It is about this guy who has a terrible life and he's just bored and blah, and maybe that just never inspires me. People, I tried to read Eleanor Oliphant as well, and the same kind of nothing is going on with my life, and I was I don't like this at all. I probably have too much ambition for novels like this. And he gets enmeshed in this cool little game of things with cards. A horrible description. I describe books that I've never read before better than this. I think this one just might win because everyone loves it, and that is The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is, of course, beloved for the Mortal Instruments or Shadowhunters, whichever you're calling the series, and I've been reading it since 2016. It's an issue. I've been annotating it and trying to read it because I think it's important if you're a writer in a genre to read what's really popular in that genre. So I've been trying and failing. I think I'm like close to 200 pages in. It's only like 480 pages, so I should be able to read it. Let me know if you want me to read this. It is about this girl named Clary who on her 16th birthday finds out that her job should be to hunt demons. Yeah. And her father is a mass murderer. A Farewell of Arms by Ernest Hemingway. This is a novel that is about his experience in World War I, and it's fictionalized, of course, but it is about being an ambulance worker and falling in love with an older woman who's a nurse and all of those things and the kind of horrors of war. And World War I is one of my favorite times in history. I really like books that are kind of really emotional and sorrowful, so I'm really excited to read this book. So those are the 10 books that I am thinking about reading next month, and if I should read them, I will have quizzes somewhere, and when I figure out how to do that, and you can vote. And happy reading and writing, and tell me which books you've been putting off for way too long.